how do you check the facts? Ask, what is the emotion I want to change? It's much harder to change an emotion when you don't know what emotion or set of emotions you are actually feeling. Facts about a situation might fit one emotion, but not another. Pay careful attention to current thoughts, physical sensations, posture, urges to act, actions, and verbal statements when you're reviewing ways to describe emotions. Ask what event prompted my emotion. Describe the facts observed through the senses. Just the facts. Challenge judgments, extremes, and absolutes, and black and white descriptions. A more balanced view of the facts may change your emotions. Prompting events can be an event outside of you or an internal event, such as a previous emotion, a series of thoughts, or an ability or inability to do a task. A prompting event can be a secondary reaction to a previous emotion. An example would be anger at yourself for feeling afraid. A prompting event can be a secondary reaction to a thought. An example would be feeling guilty at judgmental thoughts about another person. A prompting event can also be a secondary reaction to lack of ability. An example would be feeling ashamed at your inability to remember someone's name. Your emotions can also be elicited by your own actions. An example would be joy at playing well in a baseball game. One problem in figuring out your emotions is that you often describe situations and your own emotions, thoughts, and actions in judgmental language, with absolutes and black and white statements. This is not an effective way to describe an event because it evokes strong negative emotional reactions to mental descriptions of the event rather than the event itself or the actual prompting event. What are my interpretations, thoughts, and assumptions about the event? You often add what you observe and then react to what you have added rather than what you observed. You jump to conclusions and then act on your conclusions. Listening to a person express disappointment in something you do, which is a fact, and thinking that the person is trying to control you, an interpretation, could elicit anger. Disgust could be elicited by seeing a man looking in your window from the street, a fact, and thinking he is a sexual predator, an interpretation. Sadness might be elicited if you find out a person made plans without you, a fact, and decided that the person does not love you, an interpretation. Consider all the other possible interpretations. Other reasonable interpretations can be an effective way to regulate your emotions. Practice looking at all sides of the situation and all the various points of view. Ask, am I assuming a threat? Ask yourself whether you are imagining a threatening event or outcome. Painful emotions are almost always related to some type of threat. What negative outcomes might you anticipate from the event? Often, you are not even aware that you are assuming some sort of threat. The threat is implicit in your mind. Search for the threat you're associating with the prompting event, especially when you have checked all the facts and are still having very intense emotions. This is a clue that your current emotion may be a secondary emotion. If that's the case, you need to figure out what implicit or nonverbal threat you are actually reacting to. Label the threat. This involves labeling the emotion. Fear is encountering danger to life, health, or well-being. Shame is being kicked out of community. Jealousy is someone else taking away a valued person or thing. Evaluate the chances that the threatening event will really occur. It is important to be in wise mind when you consider the likelihood that a threatening event will occur. Often, what seems threatening at first glance is not so threatening once you think about it more clearly. You're thinking you are going to get robbed when you see two men walking towards you on the street at night. You evaluate the chances that that threatening event will really occur by observing if there are other people around, if the men are carrying weapons, and so on. Consider what was the outcome previous times you had a similar thought. You have a stomachache. Maybe you have a disease. You remind yourself how many times you've had a stomachache in the past. And in those past situations, it was not serious and it went away. Ask questions to get more information. Check and review the known facts of the situation. When a friend walks by you at school without saying hi, you think she doesn't like you. You seek information. You ask her whether she saw you in the hall. Observe the problem situation after calming yourself down so you can see it clearly. When your daughter says she crashed your car, you might think, my car is destroyed. Why don't you check on your car? Perform experiments in the real world to see if your predictions come true. How factual are your worries and predictions about events? Do you think you can't get into college? Conduct an experiment. Apply for schools you qualify for and see what happens. Think of other possible outcomes. The simple act of generating alternative outcomes can itself increase your belief that other outcomes are possible. Your mother asks to talk to you. You think you're in trouble. You generate alternative outcomes. Your mom wants to plan a date with you. Your mom wants to congratulate you for getting good grades. Your mom wants to ask you to take care of your younger brother. Ask, what's the catastrophe? Did the threatening event actually occur? If the worst outcome does occur, what are the realistic consequences? Sometimes the facts are just as bad as you think they are. However, often you make a bad situation even worse when you catastrophize the facts. Catastrophizing is exaggerating the negative characteristics of the facts and focusing on the worst possible outcomes. You're going to die because this happened. Panic induced by the thought, I'm dying, can constrict blood vessels and actually increase the probability of having a heart attack. Catastrophizing can increase both physical pain and emotional pain. Imagine coping well with catastrophes. You can problem solve, cope ahead, or practice radical acceptance. Ask, does my emotion and/or its intensity fit the facts? Emotions evolved as a way for individuals to respond effectively to common problems. A common situation is likely to elicit one of the basic emotions. When such situations occur, the corresponding emotion is likely to be useful in the situation. It likely fits the facts. You were laid off from your job and reacted as if you will never work again. That emotion and its intensity do not fit the facts.